In Carry On Henry 1971, Sid James played the title role of King Henry VIII. In Carry On Doctor 1967, Hattie Jacques played her most definitive, culturally enduring character, Lavinia, the Matron. In Carry On Sergeant 1958, the very first film of the franchise, Kenneth Williams played the role of Private James Bailey. In Carry On Dick 1974, Barbara Windsor played Harriet, a woman disguised as a boy named Harry to operate as a highwayman. In Carry On Camping 1969, Charles Hawtrey portrayed Charlie Muggins. In Carry On Up the Khyber 1968, Joan Sims played Lady Joan Ruff Diamond.
In Carry On Cleo 1964, Kenneth Connor played Hengist Pod, a cowardly ancient Briton square wheel maker.
In Carry On Cowboy 1965, Jim Dale played Marshal P. Knutt, an incredibly clumsy sanitation engineer. In Carry On Up the Khyber 1968, Bernard Bresslaw delivered one of his most famous roles as Bungdit Din. In Carry On Camping 1969, Peter Butterworth played Joshua Fiddler, the incredibly cheap, eccentric campsite manager. In Carry On Loving 1970, Patsy Rowlands played Miss Dempsey, a lovelorn housekeeper. In Carry On Henry 1971, Terry Scott stepped into historical parody as a highly flustered dramatic Cardinal Wolsey. In Carry On Behind 1975, Jack Douglas portrayed Ernie Bragg, a henpecked husband on a caravan holiday. In Carry On Constable 1960, Leslie Phillips played Constable Tom Potter alongside Sid James. In Carry On Doctor 1967, Frankie Howerd played Francis Bigger, a cynical, fraudulent faith healer. In Carry On Camping 1969, Valerie Leon played Miss Dobbin, a glamorous camper who catches the eyes of the regular male characters. In Carry On Screaming 1966, Fenella Fielding played Valeria Watt, her most famous role in the series. In Carry On Spying 1964, Dyla Slay played Lila, a sultry James Bond-style femme fatale. In Carry On Columbus 1992, June Whitfield played Queen Isabella of Spain. In Carry On Cowboy 1965, Peter Gilmore played henchman Curly, a rough and ready cowboy outlaw. In Carry On Sergeant 1958, Bob Monkhouse played Charlie Sage, a newlywed man. In Don't Lose Your Head 1967, Marianne Stone played a fiery French landlady. In Carry On Loving 1970, Imogen Hassel played Jenny Grubb. In Carry On Cleo 1964, Sheila Hancock played Senna Pod, the strong-willed, domineering wife of Hengist Pod. In Carry On Nurse 1959, Jill Ireland played Jill Thompson. In Carry On At Your Convenience 1971, Jackie Piper played Myrtle Plummer, the daughter of the Toilet Factory Works foreman. In Carry On England 1976, Diane Langton played aircraft woman Easy. In Carry On Henry 1971, Julian Holloway played Sir Thomas, one of King Henry VIII's noble riding companions. In Carry On Girls 1973, Wendy Richard played Ida Downs. In Carry On Teacher 1959, Ted Ray starred as William Wakefield, the respected and kindly acting headmaster. In Carry On Up the Khyber 1968, Angela Douglas played Princess Jelhi, the beautiful daughter of the villainous Cassie of Calabar. In Carry On Cleo 1964, Amanda Barry played the titular role of Cleopatra, the Queen of Egypt. In Carry On Columbus 1992, Martin Clunes played a character simply named Martin. In Carry On Sergeant 1958, William Hartnell starred as Sergeant Grimshaw, a stern but deeply sentimental army drill sergeant. In Carry On Jack 1964, Juliet Mills starred as Sally, a determined serving wench at a seaside tavern. Sherry Hewson played the role of Carol in the 1975 British comedy film Carry On Behind. In Carry On Girls 1973, Margaret Nolan played Dawn Breaks, her most prominent and famous role in the entire franchise. In Carry On Behind 1975, Liz Fraser played Sylvia Ramsden, the overbearing, nagging wife of Fred Ramsden. In Carry On Camping 1969, Betty Marsden plays Harriet Potter, the completely domineering wife of the henpecked Peter Potter. In Carry On at Your Convenience 1971, Kenneth Cope played the main antagonist, Vic Spanner. In the highly successful Carry On Abroad 1972, Carol Hawkins played one of her most memorable roles as Marge. In Carry On Girls 1973, Sally Geeson played Deborah, a strong-willed, highly efficient television production assistant. Gail Granger starred in the 1972 holiday parody Carry On Abroad, playing the supporting role of Miss Moira Plunkett. In Carry On Constable 1960, Esma Cannon made a brief but unforgettable appearance as an unnamed deaf old lady. In Carry On Girls 1973, Patricia Franklin played Rosemary, a stern and passionate women's liberation activist. In Carry On Behind 1975, Windsor Davis plays Fred Ramsden, a frustrated, unhappily married husband. In Carry On Follow That Camel 1967, Anita Harris played Corktip, a fortune teller and an undercover agent for a desert sheik. American comedy legend Phil Silvers played the starring role of Sergeant Ernie Knocker in the 1967 film Carry On Follow That Camel. In the very first film of the franchise, Carry On Sergeant 1958, Terence Longdon played one of the central roles as Miles Hayward. Harry H. Corbett starred in the 1966 horror comedy spoof Carry On Screaming, playing the leading role of Detective Sergeant Sidney Bonn. Suzanne Danielle starred in the 1978 film Carry On Emmanuel, playing the prominent titular leading role of Emmanuel Prévert. Thank you so much for watching our Carry On Then and Now journey. It is amazing to see how much things have changed over the years. If you enjoyed taking this trip down memory lane, please smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss our next classic comedy throwback. Let me know in the comments who your favorite Carry On star is, and we will see you in the next video.